welcome to SquishiVision. Oh, that animation seems a bit laggy, didn't it? So I'm here to react to SquishiVision Terrarium. I can't pronounce the title of this episode. Okay, I'm sorry. I actually watched this last week, but then I went to Empire the following morning, which is a laugh I do, and so consequently. Sorry. Well, yeah, I went to a LARP, and I was there until Sunday, and I've pretty much spent every evening since sleeping. So this is the first time I'm reacting. So it's a week-long memory I'm basing off of. Not ideal, but given that I've got to get ready for work half an hour, probably good to keep it nice and free. So without further ado, this is Star Trek Does Enemy Mine once again. I think it's probably done it about 2 or 3 times already. One episode of it I remember I've not actually seen the entirety of in the Next Generation, where LaForge gets stuck on a planet with Romulan. So it's bad basically. There was part of me which, when I was watching this, was suspecting that the Gorn was completely in Ortega's brain, and it wasn't actually, or it was like another alien, but like Ortega's was seen as a Gorn because it was like them having psychosis and like manifesting the Gorn in the brain, which we know they've seen like visions of the Gorn falling in PTSD, but no, it wasn't that. It's actually a pretty decent episode. Actually, no, that sounds fairly underwhelming. It was a good episode. It wasn't of its flaws, from what I can recall. But it's weird because like I think they could have done more with Ortega's like issues. It kind of they dropped it and picked it back up. Like she had her issues. They started to become like reckless and like you know, trying to prove themselves back to themselves kind of deal, which is a fairly like strong character beat. And they got to a point where they're like relieved of duty after being reinstated, and that's a pretty strong like bit of conflict to work on. And then it just wasn't addressed. And then there was a throwaway line about how, oh, actually she's cleared back to duty now. So in fact, it was actually this episode or maybe the one before, where it was like, oh well, where was all that kind of like conflict, or like dilemma, or like personal like growth or whatever? Why did that all happen off screen? And it did touch on it like during the documentary episode, in What is Starfleet, you know, she talks about how it's causing her grief, but like it's a lot of like we had some strong show don't tell moments earlier, and it all became tell moments. And I'm like, what happened there? And then obviously this is kind of like the payoff, and I feel like the resolution of that. But I don't know why we skipped all the interesting middle bits. But anyway, yeah, and like there wasn't much conflict in this episode either, which is very like fine for Star Trek because, you know, in a sense, like these are people who are more enlightened than us. The idea of Norwegian cooperation is like ingrained into them in the same way that division is ingrained into us. So it seems natural that, you know, push comes to shove, it's a less optimistic view that they would actually be inclined to work with their fear for survival. Whereas, you know, obviously in you know, it's a counterpoint to how we would instead be more inclined to like violence, which is usually the kind of, I think, whole point of the enemy mine trope. So it's kind of interesting they didn't entirely go down that kind of route. I think like what Ortega's had like a brief, like I think Ortega's got over her distrust of the Gorn. I think like they almost like immediately after the first encounter with them, Wimmy was a bit too quick, but like I can't remember the actress's name now, but they did a really good job of like playing through that emotions. They made it really endearing. I enjoyed seeing them kind of like interact with each other. You know, I like I like how Ortegas was teaching the Gorn chess, and the Gorn like taught them the game back. Really cute how Ortegas like doing the whole like of the chess piece because they didn't want to eat the bone. It's very adorable. I like the the subtle kind of like misconceptions that were kind of like dismissed, like how like it was the Gorn actually couldn't understand human English without a translator, like that. I think the set design was alright. Yeah, I mean there wasn't really much. It was a solid but safe episode. I think that was my biggest issue. Was safe, but like I don't know. Like I feel if you were risky with this episode, you could have undermined it. So I'm not quite sure what you would do differently. I guess is my takeaway. My heart is bleeding. However, for the tragedy of the end of the episode, which I don't think really gets brought on, doesn't really get touched upon massively. In that. So like, in comparison, and maybe this is deliberate, but in comparison to how Ortegas is like, very quickly goes back to that ingrained mutual cooperation, survival instinct that future humans have. You then have Union Singh, who instead shoots first without and it's like it's not as if like, and it's really weird because like we know her to be. And a lot of Starfleet officers to be very reserved when it comes to blasting. So the fact that they saw a Gorn and immediately shot the Gorn is a very kind of modern instinct. I think that clashes a lot with like what else we see in this episode. Like the Gorn was like behind Ortegas. They weren't like rearing to attack. It was clear they were both coming from the same place, and that Ortegas wasn't in any kind of panic. So I mean, I guess it kind of ties into Union Stingh's kind of prejudice, which I guess fair enough. But even then, it seemed very kind of I feel like it was very intentionally because we needed that kind of moment for Ortegas to kind of have that tragedy, to kind of like have that pathos ingrained into this whole arc. I just was probably the episode part of the episode I liked the least. And then we got, I forget the names now. We have to bring it up on the computer. The super powerful wouldn't have been like the really, no one's written the nobody's written the Metron. No one's written the memory alpha. The Metron. It was nice to get that kind of like. I've not watched Arena in its full entirety, but I vaguely know the plotline of it. And so when I saw the Metrons, I'm like, oh, is this the same kind of race that I know appears in the Arena? And it was, and I liked that. That was a nice kind of callback. I think the episode. It's weird. Some people have been catching on to the line about the Metron saying you might have to reset your perception of the Gorn in the future to like try to reconsolidate the visual discrepancies between the Gorn we see there and the Gorn we see here. And I don't know why that line would suggest that there was a connection between those two things. I think it's probably just easier to assume the Gorn have different biological differences, and that's what we see. I like the more subtle B story in the story as well, with kind of Uhura desperately trying to, take the lead on convincing that it's like appropriate to risk, to take the risk to go save Ortegas, and like Pike trying to like balance between his desire to do so and his responsibilities, and like I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but like Anson Mount is like played this episode very like exhausted, and you can tell this is the captain coming more towards the end of their career than the peak of their career, which is nice to see because we don't really have that. Like we've always seen captains in their prime. I mean, I guess Star Trek is different, but obviously Picard is the captain in, or he isn't a captain, or he's like past that point anyway. That's the whole point of that series. But like here, Pike is still a captain of a ship. But he's like he has his moments where he's like clearly like coming to the end of his career. I like. Anyway, I've got to like dash off, and I kind of want to quickly do a reaction to Eyes of Wakanda. So yeah, this was a very kind of. This is one of those reaction videos I don't like doing it because it's a week since I saw the episode and my immediate fresh thoughts have gone. But for completion, I've done it. So I'm going to quickly go set up a stream, Eyes of Wakanda, and then I need to go. So, yeah, I'm a house.